Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Keep Indiana Learning live stream. Whether you're joining us live or for the replay, we are so happy to have you here. Please don't hesitate to like, comment, and share the video. My name is Samantha Dupria, and I am a former educator. I taught for 5 years in California, Arizona, and South Korea, and now I work with the Modern Classrooms Project. The Modern Classrooms Project is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing educators with the professional development and ongoing support they need to implement self-paced, personalized, mastery-based learning in their own classrooms. We've partnered with Keep Indiana Learning to provide this support to Indiana educators completely free of charge. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I'd like to introduce my wonderful guest here, Shannon Quigley. Shannon, it's so nice to have you here. And please just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and where you're located.
Sure. Like you said, I'm Shannon Quigley. I am a district technology coordinator for Fort Wayne Community Schools in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And we are a large urban district in the state. We have about 30,000 students for us. So my job as a district tech coordinator is really to work with teachers in our district on integrating technology into their curriculum. So really leveraging digital in meaningful ways. It's a really great job because I get to work with lots of different teachers and students. But before that, I was an elementary teacher. So I taught kindergarten, second and third grade. And then I was also an instructional coach at one of our elementary schools.
Thank you for sharing. I'm actually a former kindergarten teacher myself. And I think in the first 3 months or so, I was probably eating 3,000 calories a day, just trying to keep up with them. So my heart goes out to you and thank you for joining us. Now tell us just something fun. What is something that you're looking forward to this summer since the countdown is on to the end of school already? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to spending some time with my kids and having time off a little bit this summer. And I'm also looking forward to a couple of my coworkers and I are going to ISTE in New Orleans. So I'm looking forward to heading there for that conference.
Oh, you're so lucky. You'll enjoy it. It's just fabulous. Watch out for the conference, the hall with all of the vendors. It's like a mini city in there. It's great.
Yeah, we've never been to this one, so we're excited to check it out.
Well, enjoy New Orleans. It's going to be fabulous. Yeah. Now, just really quickly, before I turn things over to Shannon to take us through her presentation today, I'd like to give you a little bit more information about Modern Classrooms Project and the Keep Indiana Learning partnership that brings us here today. So, like I said, our goal of the Modern Classrooms Project is to change, the approach to teaching in the classroom. Instead of being the sage on the stage, help teachers step down and really become the guide, the facilitator to learning that students need, and putting students at the center of their learning. And so we give teachers actionable strategies and concrete tools to re-engineer their teaching approach. And luckily, we've partnered with Keep Indiana Learning here to provide a scholarship for all Indiana educators, where you can actually go through our Summer Institute completely free of charge. And what that Summer Institute will do is it's going to guide you through creating self-paced, mastery-based blended learning for your students, actual lessons that you'll be using in your classroom in the year to come. And you'll have the support of an expert mentor to guide you along the way the whole summer. They'll be able to provide feedback on your lessons and your units, and they're going to be there for you to bounce ideas off of, troubleshoot issues. Every teacher has unique circumstances in their classroom and unique students to be serving. And so this really gives you that opportunity to work with someone who's been in your shoes before, someone who's actively teaching and has actually implemented this kind of program before. So with that being said, I'd love to turn the time over to Shannon to talk through how a modern classroom works in her classroom.
Okay, so I kind of, in addition to Keep Indiana Learning, offering this partnership with Modern Classroom, our district also partnered with Modern Classroom as well. So that's kind of how I started getting involved with what Modern Classroom was and what it was all about. And since I'm not a classroom teacher currently, I really work with supporting all teachers, not all teachers, but I have 12 schools, elementary schools that I work with. And so when this opportunity was presented for us to also be involved, I really wanted to kind of understand more about what it meant to be a modern classroom and how that would impact students in our buildings, but also thinking from my lens as a teacher of what I did in my classroom and things I still apply as best practices, how that fits into what modern classroom is also all about. So I know that she mentioned a few things that modern classroom was really passionate about, and student-centered mastery learning. That is, students have ownership over what's happening. So it's student-paced and individually paced. So some of those things really piqued my interest because that was something that I was always trying to achieve in my classroom. So I kind of put out like 3 things when I was thinking back to my classroom experiences. I did a ton of small group teaching. So my goal in my classroom, whether I was teaching kindergarten or 2nd or 3rd grade, was to find ways to make it student-centered. I didn't love being, the sage on the stage up there teaching all of the time. I really like to give kids the opportunity to self-direct their learning, discovery, inquiry-based opportunities so that they could really create more connections with the content than just hearing a teacher present it. And then the other thing alongside that I always was really passionate about was giving them differentiated learning experiences. I think now more than ever, we know that our students are coming to us with such different ranges of knowledge and ways that they can apply learning, that if we continue or try to, just even meet the middle group of students, we're not going to be making gains with most of the students in our classroom. So if we're even dividing it into thirds, that middle group of students who most core instruction is targeted towards are going to miss either remediation to help them get to the core level, or students who are beyond that are learning things that they already know. So always trying to provide that differentiated learning experience, and then really giving me the ability to work with more small groups than whole group. Like I mentioned at the beginning, that was my passion, was always trying to find ways that I could individually tailor my instruction for students. So it was kind of like she was describing at the beginning of that. That's what modern classroom's all about, is giving kids that place to learn on their own through materials that the teacher has created. So I tried to relate that back. And when I first heard about it, the video that we were shown was a secondary classroom. So if you're an elementary person out there and you've seen the promo video that shows students completing activities and turning them in for mastery, and at first I was like, well, this seems like a secondary thing. This is not going to necessarily work for my elementary teachers and students. So one of the things that is great about the Modern Classroom Project, especially if you join with this partnership, is you get that mentor that's going to help you, and they are a teacher of similar grade or ages that you teach. So my mentor was a 5th grade teacher. So the first thing that you do is you get this like introduction call with them. So when I was talking with her, I kind of put it out there, like, this seems like an overwhelming thing for elementary kids. And she was, transparent. Like, I teach 5th grade, and this is not something that I do for every area of my classroom every day. So she's like, when I started, this is really what I used for math instruction. And I built my lessons and my self-paced courses around math instruction. And I'm like, I could start to wrap my head around it a little more because I was always trying to make math more personalized. So when she said that, it kind of got me hooked, like, okay, yeah, I could do that. I could see how this could work, especially in math. And then I started to think about, like, how did I manage those small groups? And for me, I was always trying to differentiate my groups, but it wasn't personalized to each student. So even though I had students in differentiated groups, there was still, 8 kids in my accelerated group, 8 kids in my medium group, and 8 kids in my small group. So it was better than whole group, but it still wasn't tailored to their specific needs. So if you're thinking about how does this really fit in, it's thinking that now instead of having to even group, you're just grouping kids into smaller groups. You're getting the ability to truly individualize your instruction for each student in your class, because they can take their time working through projects that you've developed or rewatch videos that you've created explaining something. So we've heard that, it takes some kids 4 times to hear something, 14 or 44 times before they really understand. And I'm teaching kindergarten. I don't have time to teach something 44 times all of the time. Kindergarten's crazy enough as it is. So being able to have some of these resources already created allowed me to think that modern classrooms really is moving more student-centered than maybe I even was before. And can kiddos handle it? Yeah, they can. If you are teaching those expectations and releasing that control and really trusting that they are in charge of their own learning. So that's kind of how I thought about what I traditionally did with student-centered rooms into what it can be with modern classrooms. Moving on to that differentiated learning, I think I touched a couple of that, but like I said, I was always trying to sort of teach ahead to reach some of my higher learnings, but our higher learners. But modern classroom can allow you to more easily manage that content. So I'm going to skip ahead a couple of slides because you can see this is an example of lessons that students would complete. So every day students could come in and watch their own lesson. So it doesn't matter if some kids are way ahead of others. I can have 10 students on lesson 3 and one student who is really still trying to master the content in lesson 1. And then I know, because of some of the tracking and ways that you're taught through Modern Classroom to monitor progress, that these are students that maybe I need to pull for more direct instruction. Obviously, the video and some of the reteaching tools aren't enough. So I need to now add another layer of instruction to help them master that content. But I can do that through the tracking and the pre-made materials that will help me assess student learning. So this is an example, and I thought, again, this was something that really helped me in the second submission, kind of visualize when you start to look at exemplars of what does it really mean to manage this content. So by developing your lessons ahead of time, you've got every step that students need to complete already created ahead of time. So you're really doing that backwards planning from the very beginning and developing this entire unit. So everything is laid out. You're just adjusting based on performance of students throughout the unit. So it kind of helps the bulk of the planning occur before the unit, and then you're just doing that just-in-time reteaching with students as they progress through the units. So that's just an example, and this is an example of the student tracker. So I just kind of thought they'll glue this down in their math notebook. Not everything has to be digital, but this one just happened to be a digital version. Okay. And then my last point of that, of what I was always trying to accomplish with my students, is that small group instruction. So really getting to, one, students love meeting in small groups with their teacher because of the SEL connection. You build relationships when you're meeting with them in small group, but then you can also, again, it's like that tier 2 and tier 3 instruction, is that you can really personalize the content for them. It also allows me, if they know that they can meet with me in small groups more often, because I'm not having to follow a set schedule of every person. I might need to meet with one student several times a week, where one student has already mastered the content. So I'm just checking in with them on enrichment projects. It helps them manage their time because they can have specific time with the teacher to help them monitor that. So if you're thinking, especially, I'm sorry, I'm targeting to more elementary because that's more what I am at, but that was one of my concerns, was, are students going to be able to handle this self-control? Because it's a lot of self-control to monitor your own progress through a unit. But because of the way the teacher is taken off the load of being that sage on the stage, you have the ability to now start pulling those kids into small group. So essentially, you're multiplying yourself through video. So when you're developing all of the units, you're creating those short instructional videos that are going to help students understand content. It's going to help you reteach lessons that maybe need retaught. But during actual class time, you are not responsible for that direct instruction because they're getting it throughout the unit. So in different places that you have built it into their unit lessons. So some of that is taken off of you for that real-time instruction. And so essentially you've multiplied yourself, and now you have the ability to meet with those students who need you to check in with them every day to make sure they're on track. So it really frees you up a lot to provide the instruction that we always wish we had, the ability to check in with students. So I kind of went through all of those kind of phases in my brain of like, okay, this is making sense for what I would want in my classroom. And by doing the process, I began to see how these things really fit together. So as a non-classroom teacher, when they talked about building their units, they said you could build this like you're building a professional learning opportunity for your teachers and use that kind of content, or you can pick a grade level and do that. So what I did was I just picked a third grade unit in our district and used that content to build that out because I really wanted to see it from a teacher's lens. So this is just these things that you're seeing build upon each other throughout the Modern Classrooms project. So, the first time you really do that backwards design, you are thinking about the assessments you're going to give that show mastery. And then you start to break it down into what lessons do I need to teach in order for students to be successful on that mastery check. And that's what you're seeing here are those lessons. So place and value is the first one, and then they move on to models in standard form, and then written and expanded form. So just because there's 3 lessons does not mean this is going to take my students 3 days. And I think that can be a shift in mindset too, is that we used to be like, I have to follow my scope and sequence, and I know that I need to complete 10 lessons in 10 days to make sure all students get it. Every student got it after lesson 1. I had to move on. So this really allows you to pace differently than before while still making sure that all students are getting to mastery, and maybe even ensuring that more students are getting to mastery than before. And then lastly, again, you can just kind of see that. My last kind of thing that I was thinking about before I really dove in is that if you look at some of the effect sizes of instruction, I was looking through Hattie's list and I looked at these top kind of 5. All of these have an effect size of greater than 1. And I thought they really all fit into the Modern Classroom project. So teacher expectations of student had like a 1.6 effect size. So your expectations are high if students are completing this type of work. Teacher self-confidence. You're going to be confident in the materials you're creating because of the time you invest in doing that to ensure that students are going to be successful is incredible. So teacher self-confidence and student self-confidence when they start to develop that mastery, as well as the developmental curriculum and that depth of conceptual knowledge, all of those things fit into the content you're creating for your Modern Classroom units. So when you start to think about that combined with the instruction that you're providing, this is really going to have a positive impact on your students and the way that you teach in your classroom. So I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully you can kind of relate to some things that maybe you're feeling in your own classroom and connected with something there. But my encouragement is if you are kind of related to those things or you're interested in the Modern Classrooms project is to go ahead and, get invested, sign up, and learn what it's all about and use that content that you are preparing to teach in August and use that for your basis, because then you'll start to see like, okay, this is going to help me as I launch school because I'm, really thinking ahead of what's going to happen for my students. So hopefully that made sense and I wasn't, kept going for you.
That was great, Shannon. I really appreciate that. And I really loved seeing your pacing trackers, just really, really cute. How did you build those?
I built them within Google Slides. And the reason I did that is that we have a learning management system. So everything I could then embed into Schoology so students could have access to any links that they need. If I had an assignment, I could link it in there and so I could get work digitally turned in. So that was the thing that made sense most to me.
That's really cool. I actually had the privilege to see a kindergarten teacher who uses the Modern Classrooms project, and her progress tracker was a daily one. And so she made each day assigned to an animal. So, Wednesday whale, Friday frog, so that the kids could visually locate, which tracker they should be on, which was just like, something you don't think about until you actually see it live. So I think the takeaway there is that you can really make it work for your students and tailor the model to work for the grade level that you're working with.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one thing my mentor kind of talked about at the beginning too, is like, there are no rules. Nobody's going to, if you need to make a unit and then take a break while you're building the 3rd unit, that's okay. Because it can be kind of content heavy to create all these materials. So pace it out, take your time, and don't feel like it's all or nothing.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing. And thank you so much for joining us for the live stream, Shannon. And of course, anyone who is on the line today. If you're interested in learning more about a modern classroom, please visit our website at www.modernclassrooms.org. You can apply for the scholarship from Keep Indiana Learning at www.modernclassrooms.org/Indiana. And if you'd like to see live examples of what a modern classroom looks like, follow us at Modern Class Proj. That's Modern Class, PROJ, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And keep in mind, this session is instantly available for sharing via Keep Indiana Learning. So share with anyone who can benefit. Hit that like button, be sure to subscribe, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye.